live.
Woo, we're live. Hello, everyone.
Okay, let me jump on the page really quickly and just say, refresh, we're here.
Okay, everybody, refresh the page. Refresh. We'll give everybody a second so you can see us.
Okay, great. So refresh, and we are live, Carrie.
Hello, welcome everybody. Oh my goodness, we had a couple little technical glitches, but we are here with bells on, and we are so excited. And I just want to take a minute before I introduce my friend and partner in crime on creating this baby. I wanted to mention that I'm so excited, and I just wanted to share with you that the fact that I'm holding this in my hand right now is a total dream come true. And I just want to tell you that this started with nothing but a thought. It was a thought, it was a dream, and now it is a manifestation in my hand. And I just want to share with you, friends, that you too can make your dreams come true. And I'm so excited to share more about the book. But first, I want to introduce Tamara Monasov. She is a communications and digital marketing strategist. She is an Amazon #1 seller with 7 business books. She's amazing. And she is also the creator of the highly acclaimed Authored Income Formula. She has, sorry, somebody's shutting my door. That needs to stay open. And then, this is the beauty of live broadcast. Tomorrow's been featured on the Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, U.S. News and World Report, Wall Street Journal, Oprah, People, and Time Magazine, because that's not enough, just to name a few. So give a warm welcome for Tamara Monasov. I'm so excited to be here. She's my absolute book guru and publishing expert, and thank you so much for being here today.
Oh gosh, Carrie, it is my pleasure. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. And it has been my absolute honor to work with you on your book. I have loved every step of the way with you. You are such a joy, and you're bringing such an incredible gift to this world with this book. And so I'm so excited to introduce you, to interview you, and for people to have an opportunity to ask you questions, and also to listen to your incredible music, which, by the way, you've sprinkled throughout the book. And so before we tell people about that, though, let me just jump in and talk a little bit about your background and give people a chance to join us. So first of all, hold up that book again.
Oh.
Tell everyone the title.
Tell a new story. Oh, everything's backwards. Tell a new story. 5 simple steps to release your negative stories and bring more joy to your life. That's our goal.
Yes, it is. And especially now today. So we need this book more than ever. So Carrie is an award-winning singer, songwriter, and author. And she's a certified strategic intervention coach and an edutainer. I love that word.
You do?
Yeah, because you are coaching and teaching and bringing music and incorporating it all together to lift people up in their lives. She loves inspiring audiences with her unique combination of live music and storytelling. By the way, the book is interactive, and Carrie has brought all of these gifts inside of the book, so that her music is there and her stories are meditations. It's extraordinary what is inside this book, that she will guide you, take you by the hand throughout the journey, your journey. And what I think is really interesting is you spent a decade in the corporate world, Fortune 500, working for Fortune 500 companies. Mm-hmm. And then you decided to follow your own passion and create and pursue a creative life. And hopefully you'll talk about that during the interview as well. And that you really are focused on inspiring others to help them focus on their passions and stop telling that same old story, but in fact creating a new story. And so Carrie also is a published writer in the Spirit of Change magazine, and is also a featured artist in Bay State Parent magazine. I'm reading this because I want to get it right. It's all about the Arts Live, NECN, which you can tell us what that is, and the Natural Living Expo and the Awaken Fair. So please welcome Carrie and her book to the world.
Oh, thank you so much. That was really beautiful, Tamara. Thank you so much. I feel the same way about working with you, and this has been nothing short of a miraculous journey. there were many stops along the way that could have really derailed me from having this finished product. So it's just, to me, it's concrete evidence that you can get what you want in this world by telling a new story. And I would love to share that.
I love it. So please do. Let's just jump in. First of all, let's just check and see. Please say hello in the chat. But Carrie, before we start with the interview and what inspired you to write the book, which I can't wait to hear that story. Please type into the chat and say hello so that we know that you're here. And also, as we're going through this journey today together, please write any questions down in the chat so that we can ask Carrie those questions along the way. And also, please go get a copy of Carrie's book, Tell a New Story, right now on Amazon. In fact, Carrie, I think on your end, you're going to have to drop it into the chat.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, because I can't do that from here. Are you able to do that on the right-hand side? And if not, I can jump over to, I can do it right over to the Facebook page too and do it right here live. Oh, yay, John's here. John Mathis says hello.
Hi, John.
Kimberly Foreman Brochi. She says, yay, congratulations. Jackie Coyne, I hope I'm saying everybody's name.
She's got the contingent down at the Cape on the beach.
Oh, yay. And Paul Callahan is here.
Hi, Paul.
So here is right into the chat is the Amazon link for anyone to go grab a copy. Also, I'm going to put the link here right to go. If you're interested in participating in the super fun drawing, Carrie is going to be giving away a Kindle Fire HD for you to read your books digitally as well as watch movies. And so if you want to go grab a copy of the Amazon book, come back, then where you go to participate in that is you go to Carrie Rowan, which I'm writing right now into the chat, .com/book. And that is where you can go and get signed up and put your name in the hat for the Kindle Fire HD. And was it Bryna? Bryna's here.
Bryna.
Yay.
Hi, Bryna.
And Kim Jennings.
Take a moment. Bryna wrote this on the back of my book. She wrote a little testimonial about my book. So Bryna, I'm so glad you could join us today.
Okay, why don't you read that right now since Bryna's here? Yeah, why not?
I'm going to share it. Bryna, who is creator of the Quantum Evolution Method, founder of Choose Your Own Evolution, and I've been to her programs and they're amazing. She says, a thought-provoking new way of reclaiming our stories as catalysts for personal growth. As Rowan unpacks beautifully, our stories are not just memories or archives, but attraction in action. And I love that catchphrase, attraction in action, because that's really what our stories are. We don't realize how powerful our stories are, and the ones especially that we keep repeating, not only to ourselves, but to everybody else around us. Thank you for that, Bryna. It was so beautifully put. I really appreciate that.
I love that. So Carrie, let's jump in. And hey, Barbara. Hey, Jennifer. Jennifer Blaine.
Hi.
So,
Jennifer.
So please jump in, if you will, and tell us what inspired you to write your story and write this book.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's been so many inspirations along the way. This book is really nothing short of a culmination of kind of my whole life and all the experiences that led me to this point. But the thing that really grabbed me, being a writer in college, I was an English and psychology major. So I was always loved writing. And as you said, I was in the corporate world, and I left that to pursue a career in music and start writing my own music. And a lot of things that happened in my life that I didn't want to happen in my life, I started writing about in my journals, and that turned into poems, which turned into my songs, which turned into my first album that I released. And it was really my way of kind of sharing my heartfelt feelings about what I was dealing with and how I got through it, and offering inspiration to other people. And what really drew me in and got my attention was, yes, when I found the bravery to stand on a stage and share these stories in the form of songs, and I saw the impact that it had on others, whether it was, somebody that came up to me after a concert or somebody who emailed me about how one of my songs really touched them. And I realized that, they weren't just healing for me, they were healing for everybody, everybody who listened to them and who resonated with them. And that's really what inspired this. I mean, all those songs are the foundation of this book because they're the stories behind the songs. Those are the 3-minute stories. And I really go into sort of like a teaching memoir where I'm wrapping the stories and my teachings around my own stories and how I uncovered what was disempowering about my stories and how I changed them. And that's what I share, my method in the book, the story method.
I love it. And you know, the first time that we spoke, Carrie, you talked about how your dad played a part in this, and you told me a story about your dad. Would you be willing to share that story with us?
Sure. Absolutely. My dad is a huge inspiration for this book. As a matter of fact, the introduction tells a lot about his stories. And since we were little kids, and you know, when you're young, you're not always paying attention to this, but somehow they stuck inside of me, these little mantras, these little affirmations, these little catchphrases that he used to teach us. I'm from a family of 5 kids, so it was always crazy and mayhem. But I remember all these things, and a lot of these tidbits of wisdom, I'll call them, are interjected throughout the whole story. And so my dad was a really big part of that, and so was my mom. You know, my dad was a huge inspiration for me, and he died suddenly and tragically, and it was one of those big things that left a huge hole in my life, one of those things in life that we don't want to happen and we wish didn't happen. And so I talk a lot about that and how my family, how it affected all of us. And then being able to watch my mother be a pillar of strength and grace was also a huge component of this book. And I talk and tell some other stories about her in the book that are really moving. So I think all this comes together to create a space where it's okay to share some of your bad stories, because you need to know how to get over those. And I share some strategies for how to find the meaning in your pain. When we can find meaning in our pain and assign it a higher purpose. And for me, that was turning to my music and sharing my story and hoping to help other people. It really allows you to move past it and move on to something bigger in your life and share it with other people so that you can help them.
Well, I think, you know, it's so helpful too, because so many of us are struggling, we're struggling. It's almost like, not almost like, it is magnified given everything that's going on. And so for you to have a tool to help us see how we can learn from that pain, and then an actual strategy for stepping out and creating that new story is really powerful. Can you read us an excerpt from your book?
Ooh, sure, I'd love to. I'm going to share something with you right from the middle of the book. And this is from chapter 6. I really love this quote. I'm going to read a quote from Oprah because that's really what kicks off the whole chapter. And the name of the chapter is Forgive to Really Live. So I'll start with a quote. Forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different. The quote above is undeniably the most powerful definition of forgiveness that I've ever stumbled upon. I first heard it at a healer training class and then looked into its origin. During my research, I uncovered an old clip of the episode where Oprah so brilliantly summed up what a psychologist told her about forgiveness. Of course, this came from Oprah, whose wisdom I respect and admire. These words touched a longing so deep inside of me that I didn't even realize it was still running in the backdrop of my mind. I must admit I'm a natural-born optimist, which offers me a propensity for great amounts of hope and expectation for the best outcome, and for seeing the very best in others, at times to a fault. When I heard these words, I had to admit I was secretly holding out hope that after all these years, after everything that I'd been through, somehow it all could have been different. Isn't it ironic? Before my dad passed away, we used to have a big family gatherings. The holidays were steeped with traditions, and all of us kids had fond memories of big Christmas Eve parties and large family dinners at our house. All the aunts and uncles, friends and neighbors and colleagues from my dad's law firm would come to party. Even after my parents moved from Mass to California, most of us were out of the house. I still flew out to LA in December to spend time with my parents. They moved around to different suburbs in the city when they first got out of there. And it was super fun to stay with them and explore all the neat neighborhoods. I still remember flying my babies out to LA when my oldest was not even 2, and my youngest was only about 2 months old. My dad loved the holidays and always wanted his family to be together, no matter how far apart we lived. It became such a strong family bond that we all knew how important it was to my dad that we celebrate as one. It's also what makes it so ironic that my dad's untimely death fell in December, right between Thanksgiving and Christmas. The first Christmas fell just a few short weeks after his death, so we all decided to gather at my house and carry on our tradition of being together. It was such a hard time of mixed emotions. On one hand, it was incredible to have all the grandkids together in one place along with my mom. This had never happened before. Yet there was so much great sadness looming in the air that it was hard to ignore. Dad and Terry were both missing from this year's gathering, and at times it was almost too much to bear. Unfortunately, we've never been able to gather like that again since that Christmas in 2003. How the stories stole Christmas. Soon I was haunted by the story that my dearly beloved family was now broken, and that as a result my life would forever be broken beyond repair. There was a hole so big in it I couldn't see how to maneuver around it. Yes, it was a self-made story that hardly made any sense, and it certainly did not feel loving to tell it to myself, but it still loomed in the back of my mind like a debilitating dark cloud. There were valid reasons why we didn't gather for Christmas the following year or the next year. Everyone had their own lives. Some of us lived across the country, and my sister had even changed religions and didn't celebrate Christmas anymore. For obvious reasons, my mom never felt like celebrating Christmas again, and no one could blame her. The untimeliness of my dad's departure right around Christmas was something we never expected her to move past. For me, each holiday came and went, reminding me that my story was true because I believed it to be. Life had evolved, my story did not. On some holidays, I used to sneak outside to cry because I didn't want my sweet, innocent children to see me upset at a time when we're supposed to be celebrating. I could shake it off pretty quickly, but inside I was quietly holding out hope that the past could have and should have been different. This story stole my joy, the joy that sat there right in front of me, begging to be celebrated. The very joy that my dad would have loved to share with his beautiful granddaughters, because as he often preached, it's all about making memories. The thought that I was still holding out hope and that my past could have been different gave me the answer to so many questions that I silently asked in my head. All of those what ifs and only ifs that floated around in my mind, circling some of the tragic events that I knew I just had to learn how to think about differently. These questions weren't as loud as they had been when the tragedies had first happened, but they had become part of my quiet inner chatter. Their irrational thoughts and questions sounded something like this. Was my dad's death meant to be? Did the doctors screw up? Could they have saved him? Didn't they tell us at one point he was going to make it? What if Colleen and her friends had lost the car keys and left the dorm 5 minutes later? She could still be here and maybe our children would be friends. What if someone had stopped that kid from driving drunk? Why did they have to move to that house anyway? Maybe Billy Joel was right. Only the good die young. I didn't ask them all the time like I used to, but I still found myself ruminating about how life would be different and what I might be doing instead of these events had never occurred. There were pieces of the facts that I thought could have been modified if just one moment in time changed slightly. The truth of the matter was the questions were all just pointing me towards an illusion, something that was not real, but I kept it real in my mind and my body by holding on tightly to a shred of hope that none of this should have happened. But it didn't really matter if it should have happened. It did happen. Not because it was fair or just or right or wrong or good or bad. None of my judgments about it changed anything. They just kept me further and further from freeing myself from my own mind's imprisonment. Realizing that I still held out hope that my dad or sister should still be here, or that my sweet friend Colleen should not have been taken so young, that any of the past could have been any different or should have been any different, hit me like a thunderous storm, one in which the hail rains down out of nowhere, banging on all my doors and windows as if to say, hey, pay attention. As much as I wanted to move forward, these irrational thoughts kept me stuck in the story, and all the details of it were drowning out my happiness. The moment that I recognized this, I was able to release what had, unbeknownst to me, tied all my energy and a portion of my heart to the past. That startling truth changed the way I viewed my life and my stories. Once I became aware of this, there was no going back. The beauty of the Oprah quote lies in its simplicity. I taped it to my glass-top desk so that every morning when I looked at it, my calendar, it was right there reminding me to focus on it. I repeated it to myself so many times that it became a belief because, as I heard Abraham Hicks say many times, a belief is just a thought we keep thinking. Well, if that's all it was, I was certain I could make a new thought. This understanding made it easier to let myself off the hook from trying to make sense of it all. If forgiveness was letting go of this hope that only made me feel bad, I could change that because, after all, it was my hope. I created it. So I could change it just as easily. The mere thought of finally being able to stop trying to put all the pieces of the past back together felt like an invitation to peace, a gift that I unwrapped and marveled at, that whispered to me, it's okay to let it go. Finally, I accepted that there really was nothing I could change but my mind. Whew.
Wow. Sorry. silence because I mean, Sue saying she's crying. Sue Harrison, Sue, yeah, she has goosebumps. I had goosebumps. I mean, such a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
Do you want to, please, anyone who wants to comment and let Carrie know? So moving. Liz Miller Klein says, just beautiful, so moving. The tears are flowing. Oh. Tracy Delfino, beautiful.
Oh, hi, Tracy.
So, yeah, and I appreciate you sharing, and that's what you're talking about is with this book. I love what you said. Life has evolved, and my story had not.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think it happens a lot, you know, when our life evolves and we're, you know, evolving as people, but we don't realize those sneaky little stories that we keep telling. That was a big story, and it was something I told to myself, not necessarily other people. And I feel like those are the sneaky ones, that the ones that we say all the time, and even ones that we might even joke about, a lighthearted story that we say to our friends, or, you know, a degrading story about ourselves that we use as a joke and becomes a habit. But remember what Brian has said, we're manifesting with our stories. They're like a magnet for manifestation. Repeating the same old things and talking about what we don't want versus shifting it to what we do want is what will make a huge change in your life.
I just love that. And so that leads us perfectly into, you know, who is this book written for?
So it's written for just those people who are curious about their own stories. They know that they tell these stories, and they know that they don't. I mean, I knew that those stories didn't make me feel good, but yet I still kept telling them, right? And so you might even know somebody that you recognize this pattern in them, because it's so easy. It's easier to see it in other people than ourselves, where you hear the same stories over and over again. They keep recanting them, and then you look at their life and you go, oh my God, their life is just like their story. You know, because the universe that we live in is the universe of attraction. You know, so when you keep putting it out there, what you don't want, and then you start going, why do I keep getting what I don't want? The universe only hears what you're saying vibrationally. It doesn't matter if you want it or not. And I think that's the hard part that we really dig into in the story, is backing up from all of it and saying, hey, wait, first we just want to feel good. You know, we want to wake up in the morning and we want to feel good. How do we manage our own state so that we can feel good? And that's step one, feeling good. And I give you some tips in the book about how to do that and how to manage those thoughts that keep coming back and spiraling and making us feel bad, the ones that keep haunting us in the back of our minds.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting, Carrie, I know because of the book, in terms of how you've woven meditation, not only storytelling and sharing from your own heart, stories that we can also recognize in our own stories. I mean, and when you were talking about replaying that, gosh, if it had just been 5 minutes earlier, or, you know, I've done that so many times, and I'm sure other people have done that too. Talk about how the meditation in the book also helps with our healing.
Well, that's a great question. The meditation is a really important part of the book. And I know everybody's heard about meditation and how great it is, but you know, the thing about meditation is, it's all the other things that happen when you're not meditating. Meditation is great when you're meditating. It's amazing. You're quieting your mind, right? It's actually a very natural thing that the body already knows how to do. I think sometimes we make too much of it. Just sitting down with the intention of meditating is enough. I think people get hung up on, I have a lot of people that say that to me, that I can't get the thoughts quiet. You know, you're not trying to manage those thoughts. You're just trying to relax your body, and your body already knows how to get there. But it's those moments in the meditation, but that's only 15 minutes of your day, if you think about it. It's what happens in yoga speak. It's what happens when you're off the mat, right? It's what happens when you're off the meditation cushion that makes the biggest difference in your life. It's being able to consciously respond to your life instead of the knee-jerk reactions that we always do, instead of becoming triggered. It's bringing up a self-awareness, so you're recognizing what your patterns are in the first place. And you're tying that to your stories. What is my pattern of story? When I'm in a bad mood, oh, guess what story I pick out? I pick up this awful story that makes me feel even worse, and everybody else around me makes them feel bad too. So starting to become aware of that, and meditation really helps us, not only to quiet our mind and quiet our bodies, but it really helps us tap into who we really are and what we really want, which is really peace and freedom and love and joy. Those are the things that we're here for, right? So meditation will bring more of that to your life. And in the book, what's cool, I'm going to just show a little interactive piece tomorrow.
I was just going to ask you to hold it up so people can see what we're talking about.
This is so cool. So like you said, the book was interactive, but I'm not sure. Let's really define that. So it's interactive because, see this code right here? It's a QR code. So all you do is swipe your device over the QR code reader. Everything's backwards. And
it's not backwards on our screen.
This little QR code, you scan it with your device, your phone or whatever, and you hear my meditation. This happens to be one for meditation. You see the girl meditating. And you can hear my guided meditation. I made a meditation for each of the 5 steps in my book. So you're going to get these meditations with the book. And then another cool thing is that my music is in here. So when I start telling a story, and then I have one of my 3-minute, song stories, you will find another code like that to swipe over, and you can hear the song exactly at the pertinent point in the chapter that goes along with the story. So I think it's really gonna just help resonate more with the story and bring it to life more by being able to hear something. Music is magical. It's the universal language, right? Music is such a healer. So I think hearing that along with my story is just going to give you more of a level of connection and understanding and resonance with what I'm talking about. So that's what I'm super excited about, because that's a really cool thing that Tamara helped me with. So thank you for that.
It's my pleasure. Trust me. As you know, I've been singing all your songs. And so
I love that.
I do. I love it. So Sue is asking a question I think that it's a perfect timing for.
Okay.
And she said, you're such an amazing soul, first of all. And she said, how did you go from writing your songs to writing a book?
Oh, that's a great question, Miss Susie. So, well, as I mentioned, I was always a writer in college. I was an English major, English and psychology. So I was always a writer, and it was always in the back of my mind that I wanted to write a book. And it was just an accumulation of all these stories. And it got to the point where I just had to write it. I had no other choice. It felt like the next right thing for me to do in my life. And as I mentioned before, everything that I've done, whether it was, my corporate career, and then into the music business, and then some of my entrepreneurial adventures, and everything led me, being a mom, being a wife, all these things led me right here to this point. And amidst all those things that I did, I was always studying, always learning. If you know me, my whole house is filled with books. I love books. I love learning. I love absorbing all this information, energy medicine, energy psychology, Tony Robbins, Wayne Dyer, Louise Hay, Joe Dispenza, all the big ones. I've studied these for years and years. And the time came where I was like, I felt like I was exploding with information. And then kind of marrying that with my story, there was no stopping me to writing this book. So I've always been a lover of writing from the time I was really little. So it was just a natural progression for me, Sue. Thank you for asking.
I love that. And so Cindy has a question. Does that work if you're reading it on a Kindle, the interactivity?
Yeah, absolutely. All you do is click on it and boom, you're there.
Yeah, so you literally just click the link, and if you want to click on the meditation, then you have Carrie just giving you the meditation. I just love it because Carrie pops up to life throughout this book to guide you in your journey, and she plays her music along the way, gives you so many steps, tools and steps to help retell your story in a way that it brings joy to your life. And so, Carrie, what about playing us a song?
Oh, you want me to play your favorite?
Yeah. But first of all, tell everyone, I'm going to grab the lyrics.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So people can sing along. Won't that be fun?
Well, you're going to put it in there?
I'm going to put it in the chat, but here's what I'd like to do. It's called Free Me. Can you tell us what inspired that song?
Absolutely. So I think the time is perfect because we're talking about meditation. So Free Me is really about quieting your mind. The first line in the song is "Wash the clouds away from me, the clarity of a breath." So it's talking about, without saying it, going inside and getting quiet. Wisdom lives in captivity. Silence unlocks its depth. And that's exactly what it's talking about. It's really talking about meditation, getting back to who you really are, quieting your mind from all the external outside things in this world. We've become such an externally focused world, haven't we? Our phones, our houses, everything's outside of ourselves. And this really celebrates the freedom that is yours when you can let go of all that stuff. I don't break my nose with my guitar. Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Do a little impromptu sound check. Can people raise their hands in the chat?
No, but you're getting a lot of hearts.
Yay, I love hearts. Okay, hopefully this is you can hear us. So you put the words up for everybody?
I did. It's right here in the chat.
Feel free to sing along. Wash the clouds away from me, the clarity of a breath. Wisdom lives in captivity, silence unlocks instead. Free, free me, let go of all your words. Free me, free me, let me flow within you. Truth cannot be heard. Why do I put away afraid of all this power? Conscious of my limits, the storm may bring a shower. Free me, free me, let go of all the words. Free me, free me, let me flow within you. Truth can now be heard. Opening, awakening like a body to the sun. Slowly grows within itself. Truth being as one. Wash the clouds away from me, clarity of a breath. Wisdom lives in captivity, silence wants its death. Free me, free me, let go of all the words. Free me, free me, let me flow within you. Truth cannot be heard. Opening, awakening like a body to the sun. Slowly grows within itself. Truth and beauty as one. Wash the clouds away from me, the clarity of a breath. Wisdom lives in captivity, silence unlocks its depth. Free me, free me, let go of all the words. Free me, free me, let in you, truth cannot be heard. Free me, free me, free me.
Carrie, so beautiful. Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
I could listen to that on loop. I love that song so much.
Thank you so
Oh my God.
much.
So Carrie was clapping, saying so lovely to hear your voice singing.
Oh,
She's singing along at home. That was so fun to have the lyrics there so people could join in.
oh, I'm so happy.
And she said, I so needed that today.
Who said that?
Kim Jennings.
Oh, Kim.
You've got lots of hearts from Sue Harrison. And then let's see. Okay. And Lori, thank you. Lori just bought your book, Lori Diamond.
Yay. Thank you, Lori.
Yay.
Yay.
And also participate in the drawing too at carrierowan.com/book just for fun. I mean, who doesn't want a Kindle Fire HD?
Right.
Yay! And we can listen to your music on there probably too. And Liz Miller Klein says, beautiful. So please put any questions that you have for Carrie in there. Carrie, that was just so, just beautiful.
Thank you.
Tell us, if you will, and people, if everyone could just put, big hearts from Cindy Grogan. Yeah. And you're getting lots of love.
Yay. Oh, I feel it. I feel it.
Can you talk to us about why stories are so powerful?
Sure. That's a great question. Stories are powerful because of what we said that my friend Brian has said about how they're attraction in action. They're way more powerful than we think. They're little microcosms of our life, right? Aren't they? They're like, once you start to pay attention to stories, like I started paying attention to my own stories, and I started to get some insights on that and why I told them and some understanding of the intention behind my stories. But then you start to pay attention to other people's stories, which is so interesting because, like I said before, I think it's easier to see a pattern there. And when you see that somebody's living a story, let's turn it around and say someone's living a great story, right? And you're admiring their life and you're seeing the amazing things happen in their life, and you start asking them some questions and their answers are, wow, things are always working out for me, or yeah, I love what I do, right? You ever talk to somebody like that and they're like, they have such passion, you feel it. They love everything about what they do. And these are the power of our stories. Do you want to live like that? Or do you want to keep telling the stuck story about what's not working in your life, what's gone wrong? We all have that story. And unfortunately, in our society, it's become a thing. It's become commonplace to share our wounded stories. Have you noticed that? Like, that's how people share their wounded stories to connect. And I totally get that. And I totally appreciate that. But when we start to take a look at, hey, wait a second, how am I feeling when I tell that story? Or how did I just make my listener feel when I told that story? And when that becomes really important to you, your stories almost morph on their own. When you change your mindset about what you want to feel and how you want to feel in your life and how you want to look at what's working versus what's broken, your stories just automatically come along with you. They really do. It's a powerful, powerful thing. But it all starts up here, right? It all starts when you make a choice. And that's one of the things I really emphasize in the book is how we've got a lot more choices than we think. When we tell the same stuck story, a stuck story is saying, hey, I don't have any choices. I have to be here. I can't go here. I can't go there. I can't go there. Somehow we've convinced ourselves that there are no choices. But the beauty of this, and the beauty of the meditation, and the beauty of the inner reflections and self-awareness is that you start to take that power back. And meditation helps you get the power back. It helps you see that, wait a minute, I'm the creator of my own world. Yeah, I can't change any of those things that happened in my life, but what I can do is change my mind about it. What I can do is reframe it. What I can do is look for something good that I can bring out of this, all this bad stuff that happened to me. Because we all have those stories. It's just the way of life. So this book really goes into, how do you do that? How do you do that?
And talk to us about that, because I know you created the STORY acronym. And so what are those steps in your book that can guide us through? I mean, if you could just touch on them a little bit so we know what to expect. Yeah.
Sure. So I mentioned a little bit before, so it's an acronym, STORY. I came up with it because before I wrote the book, I had the outline of the book, right? And then I did a couple talks at the Natural Living Expo on the book. So I had to prepare for a 50-minute talk. And I thought, how many times have you been at a seminar and you walk out the door and the next day you don't remember a thing? So I wanted them to take, right? It happens all the time. Or like I had a stack of notes like this, I never look at them again. So I wanted everybody to be able to walk out that door of my seminar with one thing that they remembered. And that was my acronym, STORY. You can remember STORY. So S stands for state, your state of mind. What's your state of mind? I mentioned that before. You want to wake up in the morning and have a little regimen for yourself, have a little routine. Get in control of your state of mind, because we're the only ones who can control that. Get on top of that, get out ahead of it early, right? So that's the S. And I give you a lot of tools in the book. Really fun and easy ways to change your state of mind. And then T. T stands for true intention. When we start to look behind our stories and under our stories, we realize it's pretty honorable reason that we tell them. We tell them usually to get a need met, or we want a little sympathy. There's always an intention behind telling our stories. And if you really start to pay attention to your stories, you'll notice you tell different stories to different people. It might be the same theme. And once we start to look at our intentions and clean up our intentions, because we all have a little bit of, the dark intentions in there. Maybe you do want some sympathy. Maybe you do. You're trying to ask somebody for help and you don't know how to do it, so you do it through a story. So once you start to understand those intentions, it can help your stories, again, to morph automatically. And then the O stands for outcome. A lot of times we forget about the person that we're talking to. So we forget about how our story is affecting everybody around us, not just us. And so we want to live a life where we're empowering other people and we're lifting other people up. We don't want to bring them down with our stories. There's plenty of that to go around these days. So the next is the reframe. I think the reframe is one of the most powerful aspects of retelling your story. It's very popular with, coaches and psychotherapists, but I look at it just like simply what it is. It's putting a new frame around something you already had. It's sometimes asking somebody else for their insights on one of your stories because you're so stuck in it, you can't see what's great about that story, right? I mean, I talk about something called polishing your pearls in my book, which is, the whole thing when life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. What do you do when life throws you this disgusting slimy oyster, right? You got to get inside, you got to move it around and look for that one little pearl in there. So when you can find what your pearls are, my pearls for me were my songs. My songs came out of a place of, deep pain at the time, but they also came out of some great joy. So it's finding for you, what's the good thing that can come out of that story. And that's the reframe, looking at it differently, choosing a new lens. And then lastly is the why for you. You, my friends, you had the power all along. But sometimes we just forget. We forget that we have way more choices than we do in life. We can step up and say, hey, wait a minute. I don't like the way this story makes me feel. Yeah, I don't like what happened, and I wish that didn't happen, but I can look at it this way, and I can take my power back by taking responsibility and learning to tell a new story so that I feel better, because we still have to get up every day and get through life, right? Mm-hmm. We want to feel better. We want to feel good. We want to get rid of some of this anxiety and some of the stress that's hanging around us, so we can take our power back with a new story. And that's the method.
I love that. And what I love about it is it's so simple and it is easy to remember. And I think if we find ourselves getting off track and going back to our old story, it's easy to remember, oh, wait a minute, I have the story and the acronym pops up and you can walk yourself through those different steps, which I know you go into detail in the book in terms of how to actually do that.
Yes, the how to. Yes, absolutely. And it's fun too. I mean, it's lighthearted. At the end of the chapters are all these exercises that really get you thinking, and some of them are fun, and they just really get you thinking about some of your stories. It prompts you to keep a little book with you and write down, catch yourself saying some of those stories. There's a lot of lightheartedness and funny points in the book as well. And there's a lot of great turnaround stories. I won't give it all away, but stories that you might choose not to tell, but end up being some of your greatest turnaround stories in your life that you couldn't have known at the time. So it's really fun and interesting. I think you'll find a lot of little gems. Some things will resonate with other people, and you just pick and choose what tools work for you.
I love that. And I just put some people are saying they're buying the book and they're going to buy the book. So I just put the link in the comments just to make it really easy for people. And then after you get Carrie's book, which is such a gorgeous, helpful book, jump over Carrie. I'm going to put carrierowan.com/book because that's the page where you can enter the drawing, which just adds a little more, just some fun to it all. So
Yay! Yes, definitely. I'm going to do the drawing. Am I going to do it late tonight or first thing in the morning for California people?
Yeah, so definitely you'll find out Carrie's going to pick a winner from the people who purchased the book, and then go to that carrierowan.com/book. Then there's a place right there where you'll be able to put your name and email so Carrie can let you know if you've won the Kindle Fire HD. And then you'll put your Amazon order number right in there. It's really simple. And we've spelled out it in 3 simple steps. And there is a couple questions for you, Carrie.
Okay.
First of all, someone else, I can't see it right now because the chat's going so quickly. So, but someone did ask, so I'm sorry I can't say who it was, and you can say who you are in the chat. But how did you come up for the content for your book is one question.
That's a good question. The content really came from, I had mentioned years and years of studying, energy medicine, psychology, Reiki. But it was really the things that happened to me, the things that happened to me in my own life. And as I mentioned, my stories were really a huge inspiration from the effect that they had on other people. When I saw other people reacting to my stories and being like, wow, I had no idea that somebody was going to react like that to my song, which is, my story. Maybe I need to elaborate on this, and put all the years and years of teachings that I've learned and kind of wrap that around into this. So it's really how it all came to be, and the content just, I don't know, it just came to me. And once you start writing, I feel like the content fills itself in. It started with the acronym, and it starts with the methodology there, and then just all this information that I've had from studying all this stuff and being super passionate about it. Ask anybody. I'm not shy about sharing it. And a lot of my friends call and ask me. And plus, the coaching training, my coaching certification gave me a lot of information as well. I went through the Robbins Badana's coaching training program. And it was truly unbelievable to be able to study someone like Tony Robbins and Chloe Madanis, who's one of the big family therapists. She's written a lot of the textbooks for family therapy. So really just studying the core of that gave me a lot of additional foundation to also my, formal training in college. And so it's really just, it's like a big melting pot of all the stuff in my life.
I want to ask you a question about, it just came to me as you were talking, because I suspect other people are wondering this as well. We tell our stories, as you know, like as you're talking about, like the old story that sometimes you tell to someone because you're trying to either get help or you're trying to connect with them. Mm-hmm. And then they respond with their stuck story or sad story. Mm-hmm. And I know that you're saying, okay, take a moment and see how that's making you feel, right? Right. How do you get it out of those patterns with those people, your friends that this may be a common pattern that you've kind of created together in your friendship. So how do you make that shift when, on your own, and how does that impact those relationships, and how do you manage that?
Wow, that's a great question. Wow. So, what happens naturally is, like anything, we know we only have control over ourselves, right? So when I decide to change something in my mind, of course, it's going to ripple out and affect everybody around me. And everybody can recognize that change in you. So when you no longer go there to those stories, and it's funny because in the book I mentioned, and in my talk I mentioned, that friend, the one that calls you and wants to know every detail about what happened, and how that instantly puts you back in the feeling of that story. Say something, happened out at a store the other day, or someone was rude to you. And then, somebody calls to ask you about it, you immediately trigger yourself right back in that, because our stories determine our state, but it also works the other way. Our state determines our stories, right? When I said, if you're in a bad mood, you're going to pull out this story. If you're in a good mood, you might pull out this story. So it goes both ways. But when you decide to change, guess what? It has the same ripple effect on everyone around you. And so when people see that you're not telling your stories, it just automatically lifts your relationship up. When you're coming in at a higher vibrational level, meaning just that our emotions each sit at a different vibration. And so when you're not down in grief and despair, and you're raising yourself up a little bit higher each day, that's something that people feel. You don't even have to say a word. you know somebody when they walk into the room and they light the place up, right? It's somebody with a super high vibe, right? You love that, good vibrations. The Beach Boys sang about it a long time ago. So anyways, you know what that feeling is. So when you bring that feeling to any relationship, it changes everything immediately without any discussion. It really does. So changing your vibration and changing the stories that you decide to pull out is going to change all your relationships for the better and for the more positive. And I'm all for being very open about speaking with things. So if I had a friend that I feel like is kind of doing that, I would just have the discussion like, hey, listen, I'm trying to clean up my own stories over here. And, so I might not go down into those weeds with you on that. I hope you understand. I'm really just trying to protect my good feeling space. And that's what you really have to do. And there's a couple of things in the book where I teach you. One of it is called Hire a Guardian Angel. And that's more like protecting yourself from some of the negative thoughts that keep coming into your head.
I love that. Hire
a guardian angel to sit at the outside of your brain. And when those thoughts start coming in, you have this nice big bouncer that helps you keep them out. Nobody's allowed in there, in that brain space, unless I invite them in.
I love that. That's wonderful. And also, when you're changing your story and feeling more joy in your own life, like you said, it actually has a ripple effect and starts to create joy and lift other people up as well.
Absolutely. It's totally contagious.
So a couple of things. Melanie Landsberg she wants to know what's next for you.
Oh, wow. What's next for me? Wow. Whew. Well, I'm just going to be right here where my feet are today. I would love to write another book. You know me. I don't know what's going on. Book number 2, story follow-up. It was funny because my old title to the book, this book has had a lot of iterations, right? And it's funny to watch how things evolve. So I say that today, but it could evolve into something else. And I want to do a new CD too. I have a lot of new music that I'd like to share.
I love it. And Cindy Grogan said, she said, "You're awesome, Carrie. Bought mine and can't wait to read it."
Hey, thank you, Cindy.
And Linda says, "And it changes the room when a person is continually down, walks into the room." So true.
So true. And you can just tell from their body language,
Okay. And Melanie Landsberg says, "What's your favorite news story? Do you have a story that others could use as sort of a mantra?" Ooh, I like that.
Oh, great question. So my favorite one, and you can't see it, but right here above my desk, it says, "Things are always working out for me." That's my favorite. And what I tell people is to choose one that feels true to you, right? That's true for me. Things are always working out. But I do need to remind myself. We do need to remind ourselves. I have a little ritual that I follow every morning to remind myself, because focus is a big part of this, right? And I talk about that in the first 3 chapters. Managing your mind is about focus. So I love that one. Things are always working out for me, or the future holds everything I want, or every day I'm getting stronger in every way. So you got to find something, though, that's true. You can't tell yourself something that doesn't feel true. So poke around. If maybe things are always working out is too much of a reach for you, you might say, "I'm open to things working out for me," or "I'm open to the best solution coming my way today." So again, it's so personal. And I think where people get tripped up is when they try to go from despair and depression all the way up to joy. It's really hard to get there from there, right? So finding something that feels a little bit better and a little bit better, and finding a thought that feels a little bit better every day moves you up that vibrational scale. So soon you will be that person that walks into the room with a high vibe.
I love that. So can you believe it? We've almost been an hour, Carrie.
Oh my gosh.
This is incredible. So if you have any questions for Carrie, please post them in the comments. Carrie, do you want to play one more song? Maybe Love Heals? Or
Sure.
Okay, I don't have the lyrics for those right here, so we'll just listen.
You want me to play one more song for everybody? Yep, you can sing along with me if you want. Well, love does heal, doesn't it? And I think in this day and age, it's really what the planet needs more than anything, is to remind ourselves that love does heal. This is a song that I wrote I wrote it thinking I was going to support this organization that I really like that helps children with cardiac defects. And it's a really amazing organization. I talk about the story in my book. And so I started writing it, but then I realized as I was writing it, it was really my own story about what happened when we bring kids into this world and things don't always go smoothly as we want them to. So it's called Love Heals. You came here just to be with me, to show me what love really means. I never wanted it to be this hard, and now I'm falling, falling, falling like a shooting star. Now I can see there's so much more. You give meaning to what I live for. Please don't think I don't hear you say, keep on believing, believing, believing every day. Love me, love me just as I am. Hold me, please take my hand. We're all just a little bit broken inside. We're all just a little bit broken. But if we open up our hearts, we open up our hearts. When we open our hearts, we're right. Love heals me inside. Love heals me inside. Love. How can I thank you for the gifts you bring? Your pure love makes my soul sing. Now that it's clear, I can see so much. There's a knowing, knowing, knowing. Healing is a touch. Love me, love me just as I am. Hold me, please take my hand. We're all just a little bit broken inside. We're all just a little bit broken. But if we open up our hearts, we open up our hearts. When we open our hearts, we're right. Love heals me inside. Love heals me inside. Love, love, love. Love, 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 love,
Oh, so beautiful, Carrie. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you can see this. I have chills all over my arm.
No.
And oh, so beautiful. Ann Olson says in big caps, love you, Carrie. And she said she's so
thank you. Love you too.
She said so incredibly happy for you. I bought my copy. And Linda Barovica, another beautiful song.
Linda.
She says she loves you too.
Oh, I love you too.
And Liz Miller Klein is sending her love. So thank you so much. So, oh, and you're just getting Cindy Grogan just clapping, just cheering for you, and Kim Jennings. Yay! You're getting lots of love sent your way, Carrie.
I feel it. Oh, I'm getting some chills.
So, Carrie.
Thank you.
Oh, so Carrie, is there anything that you'd like to add before we end today?
Just my heartfelt gratitude. I mean, if it wasn't for all of you here supporting, believing, loving, and even sometimes crying with me. My sister Mel and I did a lot of that as I was writing this manuscript. And just anybody who's ever been brave enough to share their personal story with me, I'm honored. And I'd love to hear how my book affects you, and if you found that it resonates with you, or there were certain pieces that you really loved. I would love to hear about that, and I would love to hear how you changed your stories, because that would just make it also worthwhile to me.
I love that, Carrie. And Liz Miller Klein said, I have chills too. I'm going to buy your book now. Love to you. And she said, I love my SRB. So I think you must know what that is.
Spiritual running buddy.
Okay.
Actually, Liz doesn't know it, but there's a little chapter that is very inspired. It's called Stepping Out Onto the Invisible Bridge, but you have to read that chapter. So thank you, Liz, for that inspiration in my book.
And Louisa said, Jackie Coyne, good job. I can't wait to read your book. And
thank you, Louisa.
So here, if I just wanted to say one last thing, please go support Carrie today, and not only purchase a book many of you already have and are right now, but also share Carrie's book with your friends, and let's lift Carrie up today and just send her all of our love and support.
Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. That meant so much to me. I love you.
Thank you. Take good care.
Bye. Thank you.